Hello algebra, welcome back to another video. This one is about the slope-intercept form of a line. Here it is, y equals mx plus b. Now what this means is that m here, you might remember that m always stands for slope. So m is the slope of your line. And then we have this b here. B is going to tell us about the intercept. So the point 0, comma b is your y-intercept. Great, intercept. Okay, so let me give you guys an example. This line, wait, let's try a little harder. This line y equals negative 2/3 x plus 2. So the slope of this line and the intercept of this line are two things that we should be able to find. The slope is the m, it's the coefficient on x. So it should be negative 2/3. And the y-intercept is found there in that b. And so that would be here, the point 0, comma 2. And what's nice about this form is it lets us graph lines really quickly and easily without having to do any calculations at all, which is always nice. So let's get our x and y-intercept right here. So first we're going to graph the y-intercept, which is the point 0, comma 2, right here. Notice it's the y-intercept because that point is on the y-axis. And then we're going to use our slope to tell us what to do and how to get to the next point. So we have our change, oops, I don't want to use green, we already used green. We're going to have our change in y divided by our change in x. So what this is telling me is that the y direction my point changes is negative 2. And in the x direction, my point changes positive 3. And that would give me another point here. And that is all I'll need to graph my line, my friends. I want to show you another thing about the slope that can be useful. Oops. So we have now another point on our graph. We're ready to do the line. But let's take a look at our slope, negative. M is equal to negative 2/3. I'm sorry, I know you can hear my baby crying in the background. So remember there's two ways to get a negative result when you're doing division. I could say this is a negative 2 divided by a positive 3. Or I could say this is a positive 2 divided by a negative 3. Both of those ways would get me to the correct answer. Because a negative divided by a positive is negative. And a positive divided by a negative is negative. So what I used first was negative 2, 3. I changed negative 2 in my x direction, and I changed negative 3 in, I changed negative 2 in the y direction, and I changed negative 3 in the x direction. So that was the yellow was in y and red was in blue. But I could also do 2, negative 3. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Well, I don't want to use red, I just used red. So let's make our change in y positive 2 in blue. And then we'll make our change in x, we'll make that purple. And that's going to be negative 3 in the x direction. So we're going to start at our green point that we started at before. And now this time, our change in y is a positive 2. So we're going up 2. And our change in the x direction is a negative 3. So we're going to go over 3 in the negative direction. And that's another point on our line. Now here's what I really want you to notice is that when we do that, look, all three of these points line up on the same line. They're what we call collinear. So this can be useful. Let's graph in yellow, as is our habit at this point. This can be useful because we started at our original green point here. And you can decide to give yourself another point in any direction, basically by changing the signs and messing around with your slope a little bit. So that's how you graph using slope-intercept form. And that's what slope-intercept form is all about. I want to do one set of examples for you guys, and then we'll call it a day. So here are some examples. And I want you to find the slope and intercept of each line. So let's say we have y equals 3x, y equals -1/2 x plus 7, y equals x plus 2. Pause the video, and then when you come back, I will take you through each three, finding the slope and the y-intercept. All right, welcome back. So you guys are probably mad at me for the very first example. So I'm going to go ahead and do my answers in purple because I'm fancy like that. 1, 2, and 3. And I'm using my slope-intercept formula for each of them. So when I look at y equals 3x, I can see a y equals mx, but where's the b? Well, I can cheat here and say plus 0. So my slope here is 3, and my intercept is 0, 0. Here's my slope, and here's my b. So my slope here is -1/2, and my y-intercept is 0, 7. What about this? Aw, my poor little baby's getting her diaper changed, and she hates it. She hates it. Poor thing. So here the slope, we have this invisible coefficient of 1 we don't really talk about, but it's still there. And in fact, it is our slope. And then our intercept here is 0, 2. All right, that's all I had for you guys.